Brown, candidate for the 32nd Assembly District Special Election. Thank you so much for joining us in studio today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. And so you are out in Visalia, Tulare County. And as far as I know, you're the only Tulare County candidate. So tell us about how this whole race and campaign came to be for you.
Sure. You know, being out from Visalia, you know, we had our district's very interesting shape to say the least. And so I decided, you know, why not put my name out there? I'm neither a Democrat, I'm neither a Republican, and I come to the view that every election we do the same thing over and over again. We look between a choice of two choices. I thought it was time that we should give our district an opportunity to hear from a Libertarian and somebody who's looking from a different perspective rather than just the left or the right, because I don't really see it as a left or the right type problem. And so even though I'm all the way up from Visalia, I decided, hey, you know what, why not? Let me come on down. Let's, you know, let our viewers and our, you know, people in the AD 32 understand what the Libertarian Party has to offer them.
And how familiar are you overall with Kern County specifically? Because obviously the district encompasses both counties, but Congressman Fong now, he's held the seat for quite some time and he's one of the top Kern County Republicans.
Right, right. So I've been down to Kern County many a times, especially over into the desert regions with, you know, with Kernville, you know, just enjoying some camping. I'm often down here in the Bakersfield area. I have a lot of friends down here. So I'm very familiar with Kern. I live in Tulare County, even though it's it's only a portion of Tulare County that's there. So I'm very familiar with it. As far as the politics that go on in here, I have no political affiliations down here. So it's a little bit different to have a candidate from way up north come down here. However, I'm here and I want to learn. So that's why I decided to come on down.
And again, not to be too political, but because you did mention it's not necessarily a left or right issue, the makeup of your district. Majority Republican voters. And again, Congressman Fong, who is Republican, has had the support of those constituents for such a long time.
Right.
So, I mean, how do you plan on speaking to those voters, specifically a lot of the Republican voters that make up the district?
Well, I think, you know, our district has a lot of Republican, clearly. However, there's a lot of people who tend to go either way. Again, we find ourselves with that left or right kind of dynamic, but at the same time, a lot of people are kind of on that independent, that moderate. And I do believe that some of the things that I have to offer will align very well with them. And we can also explore from each other and learn. As far as, you know, Republican side, sure, I think a lot of the things that the Libertarian Party would have to say would resonate with quite a few of the Republicans. Some of my favorite, you know, political, you know, I won't say advisors because I never met them, but the political people who I follow, like Dr. Ron Paul, were Republicans and valued the libertarian ideologies. And so I'm here, hear me out. And again, we're just here to have that discussion about what is the best for everyone.
We'll delve into issues down the road, but if you can give us a specific example of how you are that different candidate and how you're kind of that independent, moderate candidate, is there a certain issue that you want to maybe talk about that really showcases how you are in fact different?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things for me is taxation. In California, we are taxed entirely too much, and I think that resonates quite a bit with our Republican counterparts. If we look at the most recent budget that was passed, we're going to end up in a deficit that's pretty high. I don't think, first of all, we should be taxing our citizens that much. Secondly, the taxation dollars that we'd be saving can be back in the community, because I believe that the people have the best interest and will spend their money in a much better way than actually our government will. The problem that we have is that, again, we look at left or right. It's not left or right, it's top versus bottom. We need to have more of our individual liberties more present so that we're not allowing the state in itself to be in a position to where it controls our dollars. That's where I think that we have. In terms of specifics, I think, you know, one of the things that got me involved was AB 5 in itself. I cannot stand AB 5. It is one of my biggest pet peeves because it takes away an individual's right to be a contractor if they want to. We already have a federal standard. Why do we need also a state standard that makes it more difficult? Now, I have my own opinions as to why that is the case. I won't do that now, but I wanted to reach out. I actually back, if I can tell a quick story. When we talk about AB 5, I reached out to then Assemblyman Fong, and I do believe that was when the time he was transitioning to take over for Kevin McCarthy. I reached out also to my representative, Shannon Grove. She probably had a lot of things going. Nobody got back to me. Again, AB 5 impacted me as a clinical social worker because it inhibited my ability to be an independent contractor like I want to. whereas many of the others who have like a special exemption in AB 5, for social workers, marriage and family therapists, licensed clinical counselors, we don't have that ability. And oftentimes, a lot of different companies don't want to work with us as contractors because of the fear behind AB 5. Now, AB 5 is just a quick example of some of the things that impact our individual liberties, our economic freedom, and certainly government overreach. But those are some of the perfect examples, because I believe that the government is so far in our back pockets, we should be able to claim them really as a dependent, if I think about it, because we're just giving them all of our money on a daily basis, and it's just not fair. And so taxation is one. Do I have time to give another one?
Oh, this whole time is yours. You
Perfect.
got 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Perfect, perfect. The other thing that I would love to explore is how we can put more money back into the citizens within 8032, but also in the state of California in general. When we talk about taxation, one thing that I just don't believe is fair is that we should be taxing our heroes. Our heroes are really, if we think about it, the people who give us that individual freedom, who give us to make sure that we're safe, make sure our health is good to go. When I think about our heroes, I'm thinking of our police officers, our firefighters, our correctional officers. I work with so many correctional officers at the prison. You see their professionalism. It's absolutely amazing. I'm talking about our healthcare providers, including our mental health, physical health, and our dental. I'm talking about our educators. We most certainly cannot forget our educators. And also our active duty, reserve, and guard members. These are our heroes. Why are we taxing them, our state tax at all? If anything, I think we should be in a place to where we can allow them, if anybody, to be tax-free so that they're not having that income come out and they can contribute it back. I believe another candidate also mentioned that, one way that we need to try to find more recruitment within the police force, what better way than to allow them a tax exemption to allow them to at least put a little bit more money in their pocket, since we can't give them a raise. Same for our teachers. All of these heroes should not be taxed. I also am very opposed against any taxation on overtime checks. People work overtime for either two reasons, because one, they're trying to put money in their pockets for whatever reason, or two, because they're required to. And in either situation, you're working over 40 hours, the state's already getting their tax dollars. Why do we need to give them that? And I believe personally, especially with the HEROES Act, I think that would resonate with both Republicans and Democrats, because we can all agree that if anybody should be tax-free in terms of income tax, it should be those individuals. And so those are the two areas that I want. I also want to try to find ways to get the government out of our business, because if we think about, I think there's a bill out right now, I think it's AB 2999. It's the Healthy Homework Act. Why does the state need to say anything about homework in a statewide directive? I think these should be more of the situation that should be discussed, not in policy, but with the teachers, with the principals, between the student and their parents. We don't need the state to tell us what to do all the time. We can have that autonomy without being in a situation to where we have to put laws after laws for the sake of putting laws. And so those are really the three biggest areas where I would love to make an impact and return the people, because from the libertarian perspective, we're all about independence. We want to make sure we have economic freedom, and we also certainly want to make sure that we're keeping the government out of our business, because we don't need the government in everything. You don't need laws just to put black ink on white paper. It's not fair.
This is a broad question, but I'm just curious,
Sure.
because you mentioned government involvement and government overreach. I mean, you're running to be a lawmaker yourself in Sacramento, join that very body of state legislators that you perhaps think are reaching too much within
Yes.
individual freedoms. But I mean, given that, William, I'm curious, where do you draw that line between what is government overreach and what in fact is necessary government involvement, like creating law and order in our society, for example?
Certainly, certainly. In terms of the law and order, sure, we need the government to be there to protect our individual liberties. But in actuality, that's really the only purpose of our government, is to protect those liberties, to ensure that nobody's overstepping those boundaries. Everything else can be done by the people. Now, of course, we're going to have those laws that come out. I understand that I am running to be a lawmaker. I would love to be more of a law destroyer. I would love to remove some of the laws that allow us to be in a situation to where the government continues to be in our daily lives. Whether it's AB 5, whether it's, some of the other laws that are out there that are just truly arbitrary, that we don't need them. We can get in, I don't want to get on the national level, but we most certainly could, because when we talk about insurance and government insurance, anytime the government is involved in insurance, it's not really insurance, it's a subsidy. and we're taking money from one place and putting it in the other. And if there's one thing that we're really good at, both at the national level and here in California, is not spending money correctly. And so I draw the line as I want us to focus on what the government is supposed to do, protect our individual freedoms, and let the states and the individuals allow ourselves to gain the economic independence that we're supposed to have.
How doable do you think this vision of yours is in a place like Sacramento, where lawmakers create bill after bill, proposal after proposal, and also, quite frankly, there is a Democratic supermajority up there? How really realistic do you think your hopes are when you join lawmakers?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was realistic. But I think the most important thing is that we have to have a voice. We have to have a voice in Sacramento who is going to continue to fight for the individual freedoms, who's going to try to get the government out of our business dealings. Because when you have business to business and free economic flow, we have that prosperity. I want to be the person to stand up and say, no, we're doing too much. We need to allow the people. Now, of course, there's a Democratic supermajority, and even if you add the Republicans in there, it'd be what, 79-1. That's great odds for any Marine. I spent many times in the Marine, I'm good with that. I don't mind being different because I think difference needs to be heard. Again, we only point the finger back and forth. This is not a back and forth thing. This is top to bottom. We're doing too much. If we look at California like a friend of ours, and our friend just continues to spend and spend and spend, at no point will we ever say, hey, you know, you need a new credit card. That way you can get more. No, somebody has to speak to common sense. We have to reduce the spending. We have to stop taking so much money from our citizens. We have to put ourselves in a position to where we're allowing that economic freedom and that individualism, because nobody needs to be telling anybody else what to do. This is what my ideal is. Will it be a hard sell? Of course it will. But anytime you have a difference in opinions, it's going to be a hard sell. I don't mind. I have no political affiliations. I have no corporate interests. I have no donors. I'm great with that, because when you're not spending other people's money, you can stand on principle. And that's what I'm here for. And so I'm perfectly okay with that.
And I think specifically for Kern, Tulare, the Central Valley overall, I think when it comes to kind of state involvement in our affairs, water is probably what we lament the most about, kind of water regulations, water restrictions, also oil drilling, right? Our ability to drill and keep our own oil here in-house. When it comes to those issues, water and oil for the Central Valley, what is your vision? What is your plan?
So I'll be completely honest with you. You know, someone who works in the healthcare sector, these areas are not my expertise, and I think that's a wonderful thing, because when you have somebody who doesn't know, we're going to find the answers. I want to sit down with the stakeholders and understand, where's the red tape that is holding us back? Why is it that we're importing more oil into California than we're actually producing? Why aren't we producing more? What are the limitations that are there? And so I want to understand from all of the stakeholders where we're lacking, because if we have the ability to produce more and we can do it in a responsible, and we can have, you know, all the stakeholders come together, and I'm pretty sure there's some economic or some environmental things that are tied along with it, okay. I think we can all come to a good understanding and a better solution than just saying, no, we're not going to accept our own oil. And if we look at it from an environmental perspective, we may even be doing more damage globally by importing oil from places who doesn't maybe have the same type of economic standards or environmental standards that we currently have. So I want to know more about it, and so that's why I'm here. I want to learn from a non-bias. I don't have any ties in these areas. What can we do to improve the standards? Let's solve. As a social worker, that's what we do. We want to find the barriers and then find ways to remove it so that we can walk forward. That doesn't necessarily mean that the government has to sit down and make more mandates of how we have to go about things.
And I'm curious about your stand on one more issue. I didn't get a chance to ask your opponents, Stan Ellis and Chris Cruz-Boone, about it, but just the timing of it. This week, we've seen an increased presence of Border Patrol agents here in Kern County, and we were able to confirm with local law enforcement there are operations going around in Kern County this week. Some people have been quick to kind of tie that to the promise of the incoming administration, their grand promise of mass deportations. When it comes to undocumented folks here in America and overall the Central Valley, William, what is kind of your stance on what should be done with these folks? Are you supporting mass deportations? What's your stance?
First of all, I don't think that is the most appropriate allocation of money, both from a federal standpoint and from a state standpoint. I know that we just recently passed a bill to try to Trump-proof California. I'm not the biggest fan of that. The federal government has its job. Allow the federal government to do its job. Do I support, the operations? Not necessarily. I think there are certainly certain areas as to where we can explore, even here in California, and again, I understand we have a Democratic supermajority, is that we probably should allow some sort of intervention in terms of Border Patrol and ICE, for example, for those who have committed crimes. I wouldn't be opposed to that. In terms of mass deportation going through cities and rounding, I think that's an absolutely terrible idea. I think it is a waste of funds. I think it instills more fear in our society than anything else. And even from my perspective, I have undocumented immigrants in my family, and to tell you the truth, they are some of the hardest working people I have ever met. And so, of course, I don't believe that we should be just going in. Should there be a path toward legalization? I think that is the question that we need to go. What is the correct path? I don't know, and I think it's okay for us to not know. But to go about things in a mass deportation, this has never worked out and didn't look very well for America in history. I don't think it's a good idea for us to do it right now. But I do think there is room for discussion on how we navigate certain things. And I think we should have this rather than just be a, boom, we're going in and we're doing this right now. So I think there's more discussion that needs to be had on that, both from a state and a national perspective. But there are things that can be done, and I will be willing to go on record to say that for those who have committed crimes, who are currently incarcerated in our system, sure, I think that we probably should allow ICE communication to at least let them know that they are there. That way, once it's time, hey, whatever happens, happens, and we allow things to progress from there. But in terms of mass deportation, I think it's an absolutely terrible look for America. It didn't look for the great repatriation back in our history. It's not going to look good right now.
So just on that last part, I'm curious, are you then kind of against the current state law that bars local law enforcement from notifying ICE and other federal officials? Like if they had an undocumented individual in custody, our local law enforcement by state law cannot notify ICE and other federal immigration officials, right?
Right.
So are you not for that?
I'm not for that. Okay. I think we should allow some communication. Keeping secrets doesn't solve anything. It never works in anything. If we have a situation where we have somebody who is violated, who is offended, if it's a felony, sure, I think we should. For some of the minor, I think we've all had minor infractions and et cetera. However, for situations like this, I do believe that we should be communicating, at least to allow the process to go. We are a state of laws. We should allow that. Now, when it comes to like individual freedoms, and again, for those who are doing their best, no, I don't think so. I think we should allow those people to be and find some path toward legalization so that they can get a legalized status. They are contributing to society without any guarantee of Social Security benefits, which is a discussion for another day for a libertarian, so we won't do that right now. But I do believe that there should be some communication that goes forth, because hiding communications, especially in a situation like this, we're putting the taxpayers on another burden, because now we're hosting them inside of our prison, and we're not putting ourselves in a great situation. So yes, I do believe we should have some communication.
We've talked about a lot of different topics.
Uh-huh.
I've kept you talking and talking for like 20 minutes now. William, are there any other priorities that you really want to emphasize when it comes to your candidacy for the assembly?
Sure. For a lot of people, we voted down, party lines. Some people are hardcore Republicans. You know what? If that's how you see things, hey, I understand. I may not be the person for you. Same side on the Democratic side. If you voted right down the line, again, I may not be the person for you. However, there are areas where both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party both align with libertarian values. It's not the other way around. For those of us, and I say us because I'm one of those who's included, because I think I've flopped parties back and forth trying to find my way and navigate. I think that this is a perfect opportunity for us who have been disenfranchised, who don't understand, or who haven't been in a situation to where I have a candidate who does. This isn't the Matrix. I don't have to sit here and choose the left or the right. I don't have to choose a red or blue pill. There's choice that is there. You have the option now. I'm willing to put myself out there that we can do things from a different perspective and at least get our voice out there so that we can navigate, gain our freedoms, not have the government in our back pockets on a daily basis, and allow that economic freedom that we're looking for. We can have that voice. There are areas where we overlap, and I'm willing to work with any lawmakers who don't violate those individual rights and allow the government to let you be. So I think there's a great opportunity for us here, and if that aligns with you, I'm your person. Otherwise, hey, I totally understand. I'm here, and I'm going to continue to be here. We're going to make this work. I promise.
When did you become a libertarian?
I originally became a Libertarian, I think, back in 2020. I flopped back and forth. I remember when I was in Florida, I was a Republican. I came to California later on when I came back to California as a Democrat, and then I switched back over to being a Libertarian because the values and the views resonated with me the most. I want to be free. I don't want to have the government tell me how to live my life. I don't want to have the Democratic side continue to have this large government. I don't want to be represented by the Republican side with their very interesting things they have going on in their party. And so I want to be me. I want to be free. I don't want the government in my business. And I want to give that same level of choice for our viewers and the voters of the AD 32.
Well put. And really quickly, who are you as a person, William Brown? You know,
Sure.
Tell us more about where you're from, born and raised, why you moved to Tulare, all of those fun details.
Sure. So let's start from the beginning. My name is William Brown. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I was born and raised in LA, but not the LA that we know. It's actually, we call it Lower Alabama, which is over in Northwest Florida. I'm the son of 2 teachers who worked very hard. I'm the youngest of 3. I have 2 older sisters. After I graduated from high school, I joined the Marine Corps and left and came out here to California for the first time. Spent the majority of my career in Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. My military occupational specialty was F-18 avionics. I spent most of my time doing maintenance control and quality assurance. I had the opportunity to go on 6 deployments, 4 of which were in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. After all of that fun, so to speak, and I decided I was going to get out, I actually moved back to Florida for a year. I came back out because I realized I was a Florida boy, and a California guy now. Florida really didn't sit well with me right now. And so I moved back over to California. We actually moved down to San Diego. That's when I finished my master's. And then after years, about 2 years of working 90 hours a week, I realized I couldn't afford it anymore. So we decided to find a place in California. We were searching, and I remembered this great city of Visalia when I was in school in Lemoore, in NAS Lemoore. And so we decided to uproot my family, and we moved up here. A little bit about my educational background. I have a bachelor's in arts and political science, a bachelor's in science and justice studies, a master's in social work, that's from USC, fight on, and a master's in business administration from West Texas A&M University. And that was all really kind of structured because I wanted to understand the system, understand what's broke, figure out how to fix the system, and now how to lead it. For my family, I have been married 14 years, have a wonderful wife. She's my commanding officer, as I tell her. She's one of the ones who encouraged me the most to get out here and run. I have 2 kids. I have a 13-year-old son and a daughter who's 9 going on at least 21 because she's something else, but I love her to death. I'm a cat guy, so I have 3 cats and a dog who thinks she's a cat too. But that's me in a nutshell.
My biggest takeaway is you were definitely the child of 2 educators because the whole educational background, oh my goodness.
I truly value education, and I want to know whatever we can to kind of allow educators to do what it is that they would do, rather than having anybody from up north in Sacramento telling educators how to do their job. And so I'm a person who wants to learn about as much as I can so I can figure out where's the too much bureaucracy? How can we get you back to where you can do your job?
And how old are you now, William?
Sure, I'm 43, yes.
It took you a second.
Had to think about that for a second.
Yes.
I am 43.
Okay, and so how long has it been since you moved to Visalia?
I moved in Visalia in 2018.
Okay, 2018.
So probably out of the most candidates, I'm probably the one who's been here the least amount of time. But again, I've had the opportunity to explore the entire area. I love the San Joaquin Valley. The Central Valley is our home. We're here to stay. We bought our house about 4 years ago, and this is where we're growing our roots. This is where our children go to school. This is where we're going to be.
Alrighty, that's it for me, William. Anything else as we, talk about your candidacy?
No, but I appreciate it because not often do third party and put that in and get the opportunity to sit down and talk on an even platform. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you for being here. And you're going to be busy campaigning in the next couple of weeks, I assume?
Sure will. I'll be up and down our entire district trying to meet as many people as I can, talking with business owners and individuals just to understand where their struggles are. So I'll be around, certainly.
Alrighty, if you have any events locally, please let us know.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in, William.
Thank you.
Alrighty.